This program is brought to you by the Government Communication and Information System.
Yagamugela Mbugeli, this is of course the Citizens Connect, Kona Laikaya on SABC2, where you belong. We have been reflecting on a number of issues ezihlukumezayo in our communities. And namhlanje ilanga elinkulu ngempela, because of course it's our last episode for the season. We have had an incredible time talking, reflecting, crying, laughing with the number of people who have come through to the studio to share their stories with us, to share their expert opinion on issues that affect us the most. And what better way to wrap up the season with reflecting on issues related to gender-based violence and femicide. And with me is Dr. Matume Ekhanaka, who's the Deputy Chair at SENEC. And also joining us in studio is Advocate Praise Kabula, who is from the Department of Justice, Yenage Ubuya, from the unit Edila with the promotion of the rights of vulnerable groups. Welcome to the show, ma.
Thank you, and thanks to the viewers.
I guess khulume gender-based violence and femicide as a whole. Inking, of course, that we've been reflecting on throughout the season, Citizens Connect. And sesifike ku episode yokugcina kodwa I still feel that it's such a broad term and such a broad problem that it's almost hard to dissect ukuthi hayi mhlambe nayi solution singaqala la. Is that how you feel as well?
Yes, yeah. It's quite difficult to get the antidote to gender-based violence and femicide. Actually, there is no country in the world that has actually come up with an antidote. And that is a number of reasons that contribute to that. Patriarchy is one of them. And the fact that there is, because when you say gender-based violence and femicide, it's a group of crimes that constitute that. So, but most of the time it happens behind closed doors.
When you're looking at violence, it doesn't start with the fist, it doesn't start with the rape, it doesn't start with the, the femicide. It starts with the socialization, and those are generally socially acceptable behaviors, norms, values that we accept. The whole boys will be boys. So when boys are playing rough, we let them get away with it, push up. When boys, are saying certain things which are in the space of problematic language, we let it go. When they carry certain attitudes that are often rigid in their gender stereotyping, we let it go.
As we are speaking right now, somewhere there is a woman that is being violated, somewhere there is a young child who's being molested. And so while we welcome the plan, we really need to emphasize that the agency does not afford us the opportunity to be, having 10-year plans and things like that.
It almost feels like it's too overwhelming, because to that point, to a point where we have so much of influence ka education. This whole notion that boys will be boys, men don't cry, is not good, when the very same children are being taught that ekaya. And so that means we shouldn't just focus on boys only. Then it's the family unit.
The problem is with the family, and it was actually proven in 2020 when everybody was in lockdown. We had an increase in sexual offenses perpetrated by children, and they are perpetrating them against their siblings. So there's the huge problem. We need to rehabilitate a family unit, because you cannot start by saying that this community is infested with rape, for example, all right? Because what builds a community is a family.
As westernized as I think the world is right now, abuse still manifests. in the youngest of relationships. And it almost seems as if culture, religion are supporting, it seems, not saying, seems as if it's supporting the nature of abuse. And we ask ourselves, we've done preventative programs, we've done campaigns, we've done awareness marches. Why are we not filtering through? What is it that is stopping us from getting through? But we continue the fight. And I feel the more we do, the more we hear. And I'm hoping in that way we're able to break barriers for cultural and for religion in relationships.
South Africa is a traumatized society. I know we loosely say it, but the concept of hurt people, it's quite rife. If you look at the number of men who grew up in dysfunctional families, and I'm saying that with utmost respect, but men who just grew up without their fathers, men who, grew up in environments where, there wasn't an optimal socioeconomic, development in that space. The kind of patriarchal or hegemonic masculinity descriptions that we subscribe to men, to say men must, daughter must. So, so a lot of men are failing in those masculine traits that we have subscribed to them. And not only have we subscribed to them, men must be strong and men must be, stoicism and be brave in danger and provider, protector. But we've also have an environment that doesn't even enable for men to achieve those.
Poverty could be a contributor, but it's not the core driver.
Okay.
I can lack but love my spouse, all right, and respect her as a woman. So everything, when we talk about gender-based violence, we need to individualize this thing because it starts with you. It is you. You are the one who has made that decision. Of course, the environment could be an influence, all right? But ultimately, you are the one who made a decision to act upon that influence that we have received.
Our statistics are rising, when in fact should be decreasing because of the amount of space that we've given ourselves to lobby, to represent, to make noise about abuse, domestic violence, gender-based violence, even looking at our LGBTQI groups. We're making the noise, it's all over. But I feel it's normalized. We've just become another campaign. And no one's listening, no one's reading. Oh, another one died at the hands of a partner. Next page. Oh, what's the weather like today? It's not hitting home. It's not making an impact. And I can't answer your question, but I feel it's not. In fact, during the Christmas period, a period that's supposed to be full of love and family gatherings and celebration around religion for some, is actually the highest rate of calls that we get. The lines do not stop ringing, and it's all forms of abuse. And we often wonder, if one call is missed, what does it mean for that victim?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. We'll be back with more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back kusabukele iCitizens Connect khona la ekhaya ku SABC 2 where you belong. Namhlanje sikhuluma ngeziningi izinto besiloku sireflecta ngazo throughout the season, from the criminal justice system to gender-based violence and femicide, indaba mayelana crime, as well as ukungaphephi in our communities. So here to help me just round up a number of issues that we have been looking at, particularly related to the criminal justice system, is the Director General at the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, or Advocate Doc Mashabane. Baba, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Busi.
Where do you think we fare in terms of the state of our criminal justice system?
Look, I'm glad you have raised that. Look, you obviously look at 30 years and say, what have we done? So the bedrock of our criminal justice system is the Criminal Procedure Act of 1977. So as you will imagine, that act predates the constitutional era, the constitutional democratic era. And it has been amended many times due to either the Constitutional Court or the High Court declaring some sections unconstitutional. But what we have done, we have started a process to overhaul the whole Criminal Procedure Act, because it is the bedrock of the whole criminal justice system, to look into a number of things. Most critical there is to look at the bail system, look at protection of victims. The major complaint has been that our criminal justice system is more focused on the rights of the accused than the rights of the victims. So that's what we are looking at.
My name is Rudy Dix. I work for the Project Management Office. I lead the Project Management Office in the Office of the President. If we don't address crime and corruption, it impacts on investment, it impacts on employment, it impacts on growth. It is important. It's just as a concern for business as it is to ordinary people in society if we don't create jobs.
A trust deficit between the community and the criminal justice system, our police, justice and general. But what we need to understand, and the community must understand this, fighting crime is a societal responsibility. The people who commit crimes in our communities are our uncles, they're our brothers, they're our sons and daughters. So it's our duty, all of us, regardless of how we relate with the person who perpetrates this crime, to come forward.
I-corruption iyinkinga kakhulu, especially masibheka ukuthi igciselela kanjani ama-entrepreneurs nama-business in our country. How big of a problem is that?
Yeah, corruption is a big problem. And over the years, you will have seen in terms of the global ranking that the country is not doing well. And part of it as well, FATF downgraded us, and part of the reason was corruption and money laundering and so on and so forth. So part of what we are doing as a department over the past year is reviewing the entire anti-corruption architecture. So we have developed a document that is looking at the entire system.
So I mean, the first thing is to start with is that I think the Zondo Commission has been an important feature of trying to address corruption, and the fact that government has to implement those recommendations from the Zondo Commission.
Which is very important, because every time people hear the word corruption, they almost think it's something that's just up in the air, that doesn't affect them personally. But according to your observation, just even as a normal citizen, how does corruption affect a normal South African, the average man on the street?
You see, so what the average man needs to understand, and basically, corruption and bribery, being more or less the same menace and the same challenge to society. It starts even with the cold drinks that some, unethical traffic cops on the road, when they think that you have violated the rules of the road, instead of giving you a ticket, then they start asking for a cold drink. And no South African doesn't know what a cold drink is in relation to a traffic cop. It starts there, and it looks like cold drink is small because it's 20 rand, it's 50 rand. But for those who are exposed to billions and millions, a cold drink may mean something else. Now, part of the bigger problem of corruption is that, like I was saying, it affects public service or service delivery. Now, the money that will have been meant to build a school will be diverted and will no longer be available. Or a school or a road that will have been built for a certain amount. When corruption comes in, it means the amount will be inflated. So instead of building 2 schools, you will end up with 1 school. So that's how directly the ordinary man on the street is affected. And instead of having initiatives, economic activities that will benefit members of the community, it means those economic activities will not be there. And the economy cannot thrive in an environment that is riddled with corruption. And when the economy doesn't thrive and doesn't grow, it will mean that we cannot succeed in fighting unemployment. So you will have many people unemployed. You will have many people on the streets, because those resources they are not endless, and they're supposed to be utilized in an effective way to bring development to our communities, to bring improvement to a better life for the ordinary person on the street.
I mean, what's important is that the 30 years shows that, in democracy, we've made huge amounts of progress. I think many people forget that. But I think 30 years later, you'd expect us to be able to move quite significantly forward on a whole set of different areas. So crime and corruption is quite important. We have to progress and make sure that we deal with some of the recommendations that have come out of the Zondo Commission, of course. For instance, the independence of the independent directorate, right? Investigative directorate. A number of other supporting measures for the National Prosecuting Authority to be able to get many of the crimes during state capture to be prosecuted, and for those to, of course, have the day in court and to be, and to be dealt with. We need to have those levels of accountability. A lot of work is required. A lot of capacity is required, both in the police services and the prosecuting authorities. This is ongoing work that we need to carry through.
Any money that we see on newspaper headlines that X amount of hundreds of millions or billions has been stolen, the ordinary man must understand that this is the money that should have come to build a clinic or a hospital in my locality. This is the money that should have assisted with waste removal. This is the money that should have come to assist with sanitation and water. So that's what the corruption does all over the world, that it affects, it stalls development. And in fact, it reverses any gain in our country. It reverses the gains of democracy. It reverses the gains of whatever efforts that were put in place in order to develop this country, to improve services, public service in general.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Ngicela ukuthi uyozthelela i-cold drink here, and no, I'm not bribing you. I need you to stay tuned because more is coming up after the break. Ubugile is Citizens Connect. Stay with us.
It's important to know that government is doing something, right? So we're not just sitting on our laurels, right? We're not just sitting and making promises. This is the reason why the president has set up this office. And we have a strong team, a team that is working on supporting delivery across different areas that are critical for growth. And I think that's really the message, that I know it's difficult to say to people, we are going to deliver, we are going to do this. People are tired of hearing that. People want to know that we've delivered on this and we've delivered on that.
The Bila Bila Communal Property Association is a land restitution program which happened as a result of that program of land claims under land reform. So after we received back the land, we did organize ourselves and then partnered with some knowledgeable people, and then we started business entities like poultry, the game farm, cattle production, and so forth.
And then project wena it change life ya gago jwang?
Hankabe ise ka project ke nagana gore ke be ke stay le COVID ke be ntse tsamaile le rona. If the family tse whether pula ena, whether pula isane, whether load shedding or no load shedding, whether corruption escalate young, but rona re just consistent. Re pona ile gore re motlotlo because ra itse gore no go ka ba buima yang, but every month bupi batla dijo di atla ka mo gae, every month re ba selo motafole ke yona the most important thing. Even le metsi re a thusa ka metsi ka gore ha re palwa go bona metsi mo re ka bonante, then re khona go bana le mata, re khona go tsa se re na le sona, re khona go irela metsi e se ile gore ka bo rona ne re ska se se khone re thusa ke this community ka bela CPA.
This project, and so it's quite important for the community. It should be protected as well.
Yes.
Farmers don't necessarily want everything to be done. They need land, they need support, they need agricultural support programs, and these are the kind of things that we need to provide for them so that they're able to form access to markets also. That's quite important, that we create that environment for them to get access to markets and for them to be able to sell the produce.
We pride ourselves in what we do. we are very proud. But the sad thing is, as a community, as the 250 families, as the trucks move from the farms and go into the villages, remember when the dispossession happens, people were scattered all over, the country. So where our people are collecting their food parcels on a monthly basis in a particular village, some members of the villages are not part of this group. So they feel like they were part because they also want to participate or actually get, a little of what other people are getting. But unfortunately, it's not possible because, the resources are not, enough to support everybody.
How important having certain programs and always hlanganisa in a formal way in a community towards some sort of economic recovery? I mean, you guys are part of the economic reconstruction and recovery plan. Ili thusitse jwang?
Yeah, it has actually helped us in many ways. If we could talk about, the poultry plant. We are having, a plant in Bilabela, which is, a state of the art that we have built ourselves, through, the assistance of government. We're having about, 120,000 chickens or birds. We are producing 110,000 eggs every day. So we've got, an off-take, agreement. So all our eggs goes to the big retailers. So in a way, we are contributing, to the food security of this country.
So there are really good programs that we can do and we can collaborate with, and we can get, many people out there earning various forms of income through either getting a job, farming, being self-employed, running a business, or any other form of economic activity. And that's really what we need to do, and that's what we need to create. We need to create an entrepreneurial society where young people, and particularly young people, can benefit as a result of it.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. I think let's end it there. It's been amazing to hear your story and how you are empowering other people and doing it in a way that is benefiting everyone. That's how we wrap up the first season of Citizens Connect. I cannot believe ukuthi sesifike ekugcineni, but we had an opportunity to just sit down with South Africans, almost like having an imbizo of some sort, where we look at, the challenges that we face in our communities, possible solutions. It's been an absolute just honor to share those stories and bring you those stories. It wasn't only about the challenges and the hardships that people go through, but also the lighter topics as well. Innovative entrepreneurs coming on and sharing their ideas, people who are resilient irrespective of the challenges that we face, like load shedding and the economic problems that we deal with as South Africans. So sinikela gini as South Africans to just take on the baton and make sure ukuthi you make that change. From mina, Busisiwe Gumede-Chizhanje, ginthanda kakhulu. Thank you so much for staying with us throughout the season.